operating system updates. You're listening to Techies Talking Tech Tonight, locally known as 4. Yes, we are back from hiatus, and it is Tuesday, October 28th. I'm your host, Trey Comstock, and with me as ever is Jimmy Principe.
Hello, Internet.
Hello. So, this is Techies Talking Tech Tonight.
We are Techies, and we will be talking about the techs tonight.
Right. This is the freeform podcast where we talk about kind of whatever. Whatever really comes to mind. So, I've had to miss a few weeks of the show.
But the reason you had to miss last week, I think, is a particular interest.
So, kind of a little about our setup. The streaming is handled through a Dell Workstation PC, but the recording is handled through my ever-faithful MacBook Pro. That's what hooks into the main audio interface for the audio version, which is actually the version I care about. Sorry, video watchers, I do a video version, but really...
the video is an afterthought.
The video is an afterthought because it's easy to do. The audio version's what really matters. My MacBook Pro, so I had a big event where I had to present a 25-minute video on Monday, and that required a significant amount of editing. I made the mistake that I make every time in this time of year. I upgraded to OS X Yosemite because I really wanted continuity right before I had to start editing this video. And actually, I have not run into any weird compatibility issues. That wasn't the problem. But you see, there's this feature of the setup process for OS X Yosemite where they surface Apple's File Vault feature, which is full drive encryption. Hey, do you want to turn on File Vault? I was like, I should probably encrypt my drive. That's a good security practice. Yeah, I'll encrypt my drive. Clicked yes, didn't think anything more about it. And then started to notice that, it was really hard to edit, and, it was all herky-jerky, and it's Final Cut's performance really impacted. And I'm like, guys, this is HD editing. This should not be a problem. And then I thought to myself, oh, right. File Vault! It was just going and going. And so I thought, okay, fine, I'll just pause the drive encryption, finish this video, and then just let it cook overnight, and it'll be fine. You can't pause it? You can't pause it. The only way to pause it is to unplug the computer. So that's what I started doing, is I would just unplug the computer, let it run all the way down, deal with herky-jerky editing for a little while when it was plugged back in, and I was just going through cycles of this, and I got the video edited, right? With 3 hours to go before I had to present it, which is generally enough render time for what I was going to do. It was just a real simple render into H.264 1080p. Real easy. No problems, right? But here's the thing. My MacBook Pro's battery lasts 30 minutes when rendering video. 30 minutes. Which, generally speaking, isn't a problem. But if it's plugged in, it's then also encrypting the drive when it's trying to render down a 1080p video. So it gets real hilarious. So the first 30 minutes it goes great. Jump straight up to 25%. Plug it in, 2.5 hours later, or 2 hours later, I'm about to go on and it's hit 50%. So I've arranged that I would just be able to hook in my MacBook Pro and just show it in preview mode in Final Cut and just show the video that way, which isn't ideal because it tends to tank when you do that. It's just not a good way to do it. And finally, I figured out a way to trick it into a faster encode, was able to get a 20-minute just fast single-pass encode, and it worked fine, well enough for this. But, I effectively broke Final Cut's rendering engine through trying to also have it encrypt the drive because there is not a damn pause function built in to File Vault encryption. You click turn off, it says your drive is not done encrypting. You can turn it off when it's done encrypting. It's no, I need to turn it off now. I need to be able to use this computer now.
See, that's one of the things that you have to give Microsoft and Windows. There's always a cancel button. Now, you might click it, you might wait for a little while before it actually cancels because it goes, wait a second. You want to do what? Are you sure? But there's always a cancel button.
Right. And this was one of those, Why would you want to cancel? Because I need to render a video, because this is going to take 8 hours. So the other thought I thought was like, oh, I'll just wait it out, right? No. It's like, time remaining, 8 hours. It's like, I don't have 8 hours. This is a mission critical function. I need to render this video now. While it's plugged in, because the battery, like, you can just, like, watch the battery bar move. It's pretty hysterical. So, this is a long way of introducing the fact that I have been using OS X Yosemite.
So what are your thoughts? You're what now? 2 weeks in?
Week and a half.
Week and a half.
Week and a half in. I noticed that the icons are different. That's really noticeable. The visual presentation is different. I do like the new spotlight search. Continuity is a little weird. So, in a perfect world, continuity in your phone would start ringing at the same moment.
Right.
But often it's like a hair behind. So I'll like have silenced the call on my phone, and then it'll start ringing on my computer. It's just like, stop the ringing. It's just like when Skype goes off. This is
the Paul Thurrott problem.
It's the Paul Thurrott Skype, which also is my Skype problem. It's someone calls me on Skype and my whole office blows up. So now continuity, it's like my iPad and my phone and my computer are all going do 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 or whatever my ring is. And generally speaking, it's cooler on paper than it is in reality. And not because it doesn't work, but because it hasn't existed up until now. And my phone's always in my office. So, like, if someone's calling me on the phone, generally speaking, it's not even that it wouldn't be more convenient to use my MacBook, because it would. But I'm not trained to think like that. My phone's ringing, I'm going to pick up my phone. So the issue isn't even necessarily the feature. It works as advertised. And being able to call people back on my phone on my computer is great. Like, if I have a missed call, it just shows up in the window on my screen. I click that, and now I'm just calling someone using my laptop. That's really handy, because I don't have to break my task to break my working on the computer to call someone back. Like, there's some cool stuff, but I'm just not... I have to, like, retrain my thought process to use it. Being able to text message as well as iMessage is useful. But I don't work on Apple document software. And I don't work on Apple web browser. And I would never write an email on my iPad.
Because you're not a tool.
Because I'm not an idiot. And so all of those things I don't ever use. Like the handoff, so it seamlessly works between apps. Yeah, I'm using Microsoft Office. My seamless between apps is OneDrive.
Guess what? That's their seamless between apps too. Is Azure?
Is iCloud Drive? It's just Azure. It's all Azure, and like I use Chrome, so yeah, I can just bring my tab up on any device, not just my iDevices, and so those kind of features aren't that useful to me, because I am never going to use Pages. I did once, and it was terrible, and I never used it again. Because, it's great for making really visual things. Yes, but academia has very little interest in your pretty visual things. Like, there's very set formatting, and I need to be able to use docs.
If you're writing your novel, okay.
No,
if you're writing your novel and you're the only one looking at it and you're only providing things in like a PDF format, okay.
Or if you're a kid doing reports for school that you're going to print out, fine. But like, I need an interchangeable document format that everyone recognizes that isn't interested in the visual presentation. It's much more interested in like is the layout clean and what's your content like.
And does it work?
I also need Microsoft to update Microsoft Word for Mac. Because it doesn't, it's 2011's last time it came out, does not have OneDrive integration. Drives me nuts. So
because 2013 has OneDrive integration.
Right. So my whole world, both at work and at home, is for documents, it's my Surface Pro 3. Or OneDrive and Word 2013, because that's what Emory standardized its PCs on, too. Because Emory went to Office 365. And so I'm using Exchange, and I'm using Office 2013. My Mac at work, because I have a Mac at work and a PC at work. I have a Mac at home and a PC at home. I have too many computers. is using
Yes.
2011. But when I'm at the PC, it's wonderful. It's just OneDrive. So I feel like there are better, and there are better. So I like Microsoft Office more than I like Pages, and Keynote's all right. But Numbers is terrible. It's
Well, it's because Excel is just still the best.
right, and it's
It
sort
just
of
is.
core to Microsoft's business. Actually, is the fact that Excel's the best. So there are better programs that have already been doing this elsewhere, right? And
Right.
the things that it will hand off to, I'm not interested in. Why on earth would I be finishing my document on my iPad? Now, sometimes I have Office 365 installed on my iPad. Sometimes I need to show documents on my iPad, and that works seamlessly on everything except my Mac because of the lack of OneDrive integration in Microsoft Office. But generally speaking, like, oh, you can finish the email on your phone. What?
No, that makes more sense as you start the email on your phone and you finish it on your computer. Because
don't
like
do that.
sometimes I'll have it where like and I don't do this as much anymore, but where I'll get like an email for work on my phone and I'll start to respond to it on my phone. I'll go, screw it. And I'll walk over to my computer and actually respond because like I need to think a little bit more. But then I have to retype whatever it is I was starting to type.
It's just saved a draft.
I could do that too.
Right,
I guess it
like-
is Exchange, so.
Or it's just save the draft, the next exchange, so it'll just save up there. They tout this as this big thing, and the integration is smooth. But the stuff it integrates with, I'm just like, I don't use any of those programs.
You just don't care.
No one uses any of those programs. No one uses Safari. Hardly anyone uses the Apple Office suite. I actually used to have a job where that's all we had, and everyone pirated Office. The district refused to buy us Office. They gave us laptops and then didn't buy us Office. And so everyone there was just a pirated copy of Office for Mac 2004 that kept going around.
So this is actually one of the things I like about Office 365 is that when I'm on a machine that doesn't have Office on it, I go, fuck you. I'm going to office.microsoft.com and logging into my Office 365 and using the far more limited, but at least Office-based programs.
Well, and at least integrated with OneDrive, unlike
Right.
the Office programs for the Macintosh.
Right, and that's true. That is one of the things, and I've had to get OneDrive set up on all of my machines in order to make this really work.
Oh, speaking of that, we're all about to get unlimited OneDrive storage
Is that right?
for free, as long as you have Office 365.
Is that right?
Yeah, unlimited.
Well, I'm gonna start seriously moving all those images over to my OneDrive.
I'm gonna start. I may actually test what they mean by unlimited, because I got about 6 terabytes of stuff that need to go up on the web. I may push some terabytes here.
See what? Yeah, I'd be curious to see what they would do with that.
Well, because now they accept files up to 10 gig. But that's actually useful because very few of my files are over 10 gig.
Well, it's because most of it's 7D footage that can't be larger than 4 gig.
Right. Well, but I've got like render files and
That's
finished products that are bigger than that. And I have some raw footage from other cameras, but not a lot. The stuff I really want to save, most of it's not bigger than 10 gig. Obviously, the project file for the documentary is way more than that. But that I have.
You need some Amazon server space for that thing.
Yeah. Oh boy, and like 3 days to upload it. Using Emery's network.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to upload that at work. Overall, I think some of the visual style is improved. I think some of the functionality is really slick. I just need to train myself to use the stuff I actually want to use better. And I still don't get the thing about why anyone cares until here's where all this continuity stuff really becomes useful. Where it doesn't matter whose apps it is. If the system can just recognize, because I also have Microsoft Office on all 3 of my iDevices. When it can finally get to the point where it can throw in a Microsoft Office dock and I just flick up and there it is on my phone, fine. sold, but that is literally never going to happen and doesn't really matter because of OneDrive anyways. And at some point, you'll get a new version of Office for Mac that will be OneDrive based. At some point, that will happen, and maybe it's with Gemini coming in the spring. So
you can only hope, really, at this point. Like,
right. I mean, it's free, so do it. It's certainly a better operating system. The handoff stuff is cool, but just realize that a lot of what Apple's talking about only really matters for like that many people. Like, just that many. Because it's like Apple Pay right now. Like, it's interesting, but so I keep trying to test Apple Pay on things I know are NFC enabled, and it just doesn't work. It's just like I sat there and tapped a vending machine for a while, just like. And of course, I was tired and punchy. I was eating from a vending machine, which means I've been at work too long, and I'm tired and punchy. And so just like smacking my phone against the vending machine, hoping like I don't look like a crazy person. But it was NFC enabled, so it was like, oh, I contactless.
I know exactly how this went.
It's like the hot dog in Apollo 13. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. The frozen hot dog is ding, ding, ding. Yeah, it's the Apollo. That's an official test for me. It's the Apollo 13 hot dog test that just hit it against the. Yeah. I feel like Apple is increasingly just living on its own planet, and maybe it always has. But
always iTunes though, like.
But everyone was on that planet. They got everyone on that particular planet to the point where they ruined the music business on that planet.
Oh, that's why it seemed like it made more sense.
So, like, with music, they did it, right? They got us all centralized on this one thing for like a decade. I mean, you know, they really did. But iCloud, no one really uses it because it's just not. Well, it was there, and then it wasn't there, and then now it's back. But like. You know, you could only do with the apps that integrated with it, and you're just like, what's the point? The answer is there isn't one. Yeah.
The walled garden, different planet.
Well, the walled garden, but it's not just the walled garden. It's like these apps do this. Like, those apps are almost entirely irrelevant. I mean,
like Pages?
Pages, right? Specifically their Office stuff. It's just like, I'm sorry, that's almost entirely irrelevant. Who's using those? Very small percentage of people are using those. Microsoft's whole business model is based on the fact that no one's using those. So, I get that it's really tightly integrated with that, but like, or also like, it's still that myth of like your iPad as your other content creation device.
Oh, that
like,
I hate that.
Oh my god.
Well, and as they said in their stupid keynote that it's so much better to take a picture with an iPad because you have a larger viewfinder. You're a tool, and I hate you.
You're tacky, and I hate you. I realize that they have invested a lot in these super powerful tablets. But you want to know my theory why iPads aren't selling that well? Because why would you need that?
Well, the other problem is I know of at least all of the people right now that I know that have iPads, the full-size iPad, all have iPad 2s.
Right.
Because nothing beyond the iPad 2 was worthwhile for buying.
Well, I mean, and here's the thing. Like, people aren't replacing them because you're not running to a point where it can't run the software you want because most people are just using the web. These are not creation devices. I don't know any professional photographers, and I know professional photographers. I don't know any who rely, and I may know one who at least does some minor editing on their iPad, but not much. No professional video editor does. Right? No. Why would you?
That's what the Pro Retinas are for.
Right.
For those two markets.
Right. Okay. These things are like $700, and they pitch them as these ultimate productivity tools. They're terrible to type on. They're okay for layout and drawing, But for almost that same price, you can get the Surface Pro 3, and you can install real Photoshop and hook up a mouse and a keyboard and hook it up to a monitor when you're in your studio and when you're on the road. Like, get my point. They want to make it, these are productivity tools. But they're not. That's a myth. That's Apple's invested in, and that's why people are buying, like, the Kindle Fires, which are terrible. But they do actually what a tablet's used for.
They're great for consumption.
Which is what a tablet is. That kind of tablet is for. I do a lot of content creation on this, the Surface Pro 3, because I think this is actually the device. This is why I'm going to be arguing for it for Device of the Year, because this is actually a device that gets the tablet as production tool formula right. I sit down and I read, and I can mark up with my pen PDFs. I take all of my notes, handwrite all of my sermons, edit audio, all on one device. That gets 10 hours of battery life and rides very comfortably in my bag. This is a real productive tablet. This is now a glorified soundboard that I click for one thing. They're just not productivity tools. And it turns out that I, at least, am not in a place in my life where I have enough disposable income where I really need a production tablet and a fun tablet.
You have it, though.
I have it. I mean, I have it. And it's not like I dislike the iPad mini with Retina display. I stand by it as a good device. It's a great consumption device. It is an overpowered consumption device. It's like back in the day when all of my classmates were buying MacBook Pros and then used them all for watching web video.
For watching YouTube videos.
For watching YouTube videos and taking notes. And I'm like, that's back when I had a black Mac, just a black MacBook. And I was like, I am doing like HD editing on this, and you have this like really nice laptop that you're just doing, you don't do anything with. Why did you spend that money to buy this thing that's a real tool? Apple has made a lot of money off of exactly that thought process.
People being stupid.
Of people being stupid. And I maintain that that's most of what sells iPads. Is you don't need it. If you need anything, get the iPad mini with Retina display. Don't even bother with the iPad mini 3. Just get the iPad mini with Retina display. It's relatively inexpensive for what it is.
$300 instead of $400.
It's made of real materials rather than plastic. It's a wonderful consumption device. Do not think of all the ways you're going to be productive with it. Buy a laptop. Buy a Chromebook. Buy a bloody Chromebook.
Even a Chromebook is more productive than an iPad.
It has a keyboard.
Because it has a keyboard.
Right. Like, it has a keyboard. So, ergo, it's productive.
And real ports.
Right.
You can plug a USB drive in it.
Like, I get that people have made apps for the iPad, but generally speaking, industry is still standardized around computer apps and not tablet apps. And maybe with the IBM deal, that'll change. But right now,
people with iPads use them, find excuses to use them. Like,
I certainly did, yeah.
Like, oh, here's this thing, and now I'm going to do it on my iPad because I can.
But you could also have just done it on the web, for the most part. Or again,
your phone.
If you're looking for,
I have this with me,
right,
at all times.
If you're looking for a productive tablet that exists, it is a Windows 8 tablet with a pen. That is a productive bloody tablet. You get the Surface Pro 3, you get a real bloody processor in it, like not an
you get an i5.
You get an i5 or an i3. I mean, you get
even the i3 is fine though. I tried to max that thing out, just doing normal people stuff.
Right. That's and that's where you're getting kind of into a similar price range as an iPad. With a port, admittedly only one, but a port, same battery life, better screen, or similar, bigger screen, and bloody Windows.
And a built-in kickstand.
Built-in kickstand. I mean, there's a lot to recommend it.
Has a micro SD. It has a micro SD, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I have
all of expandable memory. 8 gigabytes of RAM.
I'm giving my father a micro SD with an SD converter for his camera.
Hey, to me, it's a no-brainer. If you think you're going to be productive, don't buy an iPad. If you really want to buy an iPad, buy the iPad mini with Retina display. It's still the best iPad. And now it's just cheaper. It hasn't gotten any worse. It's fast enough for what you're actually going to do with it. You are not going to be writing recording your band's music on GarageBand.
You are, however, going to be reading on your 8-inch tablet, so get the one with the higher density screen so you don't have to look at badly.
Once you've seen a Retina screen, you can't go back to a non-Retina screen.
And everyone has seen a Retina screen at this point on their phone. Right. All the phones are Retina.
Right. You can't go back. You just can't go back. So speaking of idiocy, what's your thing?
So today I had this fascinating. My company got acquired by a larger company about 5 months ago. About 5 months ago, almost to the day, we got acquired by a larger company. And so we've been going through all of the fun of like becoming part of a larger corporate structure and dealing with corporate IT and all of these problems. Well, the fun thing of the day today was I sat through a 1 hour long training on how to use the new company website. Most of what they told us in the new company website was stuff that I either knew because I know how to use the internet or could have figured out with 5 minutes of messing around with the website. And as Trey will attest, because I texted him in the middle of this where there was a lot of profanity of me being annoyed at having to be in this stupid thing.
Yep.
I think it was for the old people that don't know how to use the internet.
Sure.
And what a waste of effort it was. Also, their tables for their sidebars aren't quite built right. So they started overlapping the content when they were in a. They're like, oh no, don't worry, I won't do that. It's a problem with the projector. I'm like, yeah, no, it's a problem with your screen resolution.
Right.
And you didn't account for the screen resolution when you built the website.
So it's not scaling properly. It is actually a problem with the website.
It's actually a problem with the website that you didn't consider that's projector.
Well, that's what's so interesting about Squarespace, the site we use, is that they can fit its scaler is really good. So it can
as long as you use and this was a conversation I was having with one of the people. I don't think people in my company understand that like I have a website. I know what is involved in building a website.
At least to a certain extent.
Well, I did actually build a website in high school, but it was a different time.
So did I.
It was a
I also
time.
installed a WoW server. Like, what do you want?
Yeah, exactly. But it was a different time. Now, no one actually builds a website from scratch unless they're paying someone just stupid money to do it.
Right.
So everyone's using some kind of CMS tool to build it. So it's all WYSIWYG.
Or Squarespace or whatever.
Yeah, so we're specifically using, and I haven't had any interaction with this before, but we're specifically using SharePoint.
Okay, a good Microsoft product.
So I mean, we're all in Microsoft, right?
Right.
Now one of the weird things is that there's a basically as described Facebook for the company.
Yeah, Yammer.
Inside of SharePoint.
Yammer. I think
ours is not branded separately. It has
a stupid name.
I'm sure it does. Here, I have the Wikipedia article for SharePoint open. SharePoint Enterprise. Let's see. I have no idea. You figure that out. I'll keep going.
Yeah.
But all kinds of just stupid things that are in this site, like this Facebook kind of integration. But what was most interesting to me, as you know, being the computer literate person I am, was most of this demo was being done in Chrome, because that's most people. When you decide these days, Firefox is on the decline, Chrome is on the rise. So if you look at it in Chrome, you know, we have all link phones, we have full Microsoft Suite integration right now. Well, when you look up someone on the website, it shows their picture that it pulls off of their Exchange profile, but that's all it shows. However, if you open up the same thing in Internet Explorer, it populates the information about whether on link they're listed as available or away or in a meeting or whatever. Whatever their status is on link will show next to their image, because guess what? There's integration between different Microsoft products, including Internet Explorer. So I thought that was actually one of the more semi-interesting things. And that inside the this very much trying to push towards a socialness within the company.
Yeah, it's basically there. It's kind of one of the functionalities of the SharePoint wheel, which is kind of how they pitch the tools, SharePoint tools to corporations, as you kind of select out the SharePoint wheel, and creating internal communities. Group communication is one of those functionalities. So it's not Yammer is a Microsoft product that functions within the 365 suite. That's something like that, but it's basically that you can construct internal communities.
Right, and that's kind of what they're looking at doing in here. But the other thing that's interesting is that so we have an existing internal website that is very much stuck in the early 2000s. Has a series of links to PDFs. There's a lot of information there, but it's actually well organized too. But it's not searchable necessarily, and it's not adaptive as far as someone actually has to physically go in there and do it. It's not. It's very much old web and how it's built. But there's a lot of PDFs and things of interesting information that's out there that who you're supposed to call within the corporate structure for whatever. They're throwing the baby out with the bathwater for building this site, and I don't understand why. Someone asked, "Oh, well, is this form that I go to still going to be available on the new site?" And they said, "Oh no, but you can just search for people." Was the answer. But I have to physically go in and put in the fields into my profile if I want people to be able to find me.
Really? So it doesn't auto-populate with your contact information within the network?
I have to log in, but I have I have this open right now, and so the information I did not type in my password right. The information that it is pulling down is my name. Or what part of the organization I'm within, working on it. No thanks. So it'll show my specific reports. Let's see. Where's my information about me? There it is. So all it'll tell you is when my birthday is, where my office is, and what my email is.
Okay.
That's it. And I can provide as much other information about like things you should contact me about, everything like that within this. Right. But I have to physically go in there and type that in. Huh. And you know what? I'm not doing that.
Oh, no one is, though. Of course no one is.
And so I really, there's also this like blogging feature, which I really wanted to tell them that it was yogging, softy.
Well, I mean, you realize that's how a lot of Microsoft works, is those internal... I mean, we see results of those internal blog posts. Because this is the tools, somewhat, this is the tools they use themselves.
And I'll be interested to talk to my brother who interned at Microsoft this summer to see if how his experience was with this and how much they've bought into this thing. But it is hardcore drinking the Kool-Aid over there at Microsoft with this thing because I don't want to do this. I don't update my Facebook. You think I'm going to update my internal corporate things so people can find me more easily to ask me questions? No.
Well, I mean, I guess all they really need is your email, and so that's in there, right? I mean...
Well, and you can also, if you're using Internet Explorer, one of the nice things is when you click on someone's name, it gives you all the options like you're in Outlook, and you can message them, you can email them directly.
Right, like that is really useful.
And that's useful, and it actually makes me think that if I'm using this site at work, I'm going to use it out of Internet Explorer because I want the functionality.
Sure, yeah.
And I think that in and of itself is very telling of how Microsoft's strategy of unifying their products so that you're given a better experience. And this is the same thing that you could say for Apple, and the same thing you could say for Google, and the same thing you could say for Sony. You have the Xperia phones and tablets, and guess what? They integrate with the PS4.
Right.
So you can play PlayStation games on your tablet.
Or the PlayStation TV.
or the the Vita TV or PlayStation TV, depending on what region you're in. Like
Right.
this, it seems that the way that technology is going, as far as macro trend, is towards integration across all platforms, so that it doesn't matter what platform you're on, it looks the same.
But Microsoft, I argue, is one of the few companies of what you just mentioned who are truly doing this across ecosystem.
Oh yeah, and they're doing it on the iPad. When they introduced Office for iPad, it has the same OneDrive integration
Right.
as Office on a PC does.
And I think that's the Satya thing.
And I have Office on my phone, on my Android phone.
And that's coming.
I'll have it on my Android tablet too.
Right. And so, to me, that's why I bet on Microsoft from the services perspective. It remains to be seen how long they really are going to stay in the hardware. I think right now they're killing it on hardware. I really do.
Cool. And I think that's the... So we didn't talk about this last week, but Surface actually performed very well as part of their earnings call. Sure. They called out Surface separately. And in the past, they've taken a big hit.
I mean, it was just a year ago. They did $1 billion write-off on Surface, the original Surface.
Fair, they also had $1 billion ad campaign for Surface that they were trying to make back. But this year, they actually made money on Surface, more than they were expecting. I think they made like one... They didn't make quite $1 billion, but they made just under. I want to say it was like 900.
Which for a year isn't bad. And if it means that there will be a Surface Pro 4...
Think about the fact that the Surface came out in the middle of their fiscal year.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And the one to get, honestly, the $800 one, which is the one for most consumers, that's the one to get, and it didn't come out until August.
Right. No, but so you have Microsoft actually integrating across operating systems. Google does this sort of.
Well, through the web.
Through the web. I mean, and they have the standalone apps for a lot of platforms, iOS in particular, obviously Android. I don't like... Their offerings are not nearly as full-featured as anything that Microsoft's doing.
They're a casual... I would say that Google is the casual offering next to Microsoft's corporate offerings.
Sure, yeah.
Microsoft plays at a different level.
Right, and is really trying to.
Small businesses will consider Google Apps.
Or
large companies are not considering Google Apps.
No, they're not full-featured enough. I mean, you can do...
School districts are considering Google Apps because of the price.
I think that, yeah. No, I'm not saying there isn't a place for Google Apps. We use Google Apps.
Right, no. And
I don't like them, but I use them.
There are places where Google Apps can compete, but in most cases, they're competing because they're a budget option, not because they're actually making a quality or an ecosystem play that's interesting.
So for one of my jobs, I keep talking about at Emory, I'm totally in the Microsoft world. My other job is a pastor at the North Georgia Annual Conference. Everything's Google Apps, and it's fine.
Well, we use Google Apps for our site. Technically, we have a corporate Google Apps account.
Right. But
we have one user.
But
text less call.
But again, this is where Apple just falls on its face. And really, we're like Amazon. It's so incomplete in terms of anything that isn't media. It's almost not what we're talking about. But this is where Apple just has always fallen on its face. But it's becoming where you just live in such a multi-device world. It's not like you have a PC or you have a Mac. You might have a PC at your desk at work. You might have a Mac or a PC at home. You have an iPad and an Android phone. Now, for all of those devices, I can get Microsoft Office and OneNote and OneDrive. And it all works. On Apple, I'll be lucky if I can...
Google Drive works across one of those things.
Right.
Across most of those things, except for maybe iPad.
No, there's a Google Drive app. I have a Google Drive app.
Yeah. So then it works off all of those things as well.
Right.
But for Apple...
I can get really messed up iCloud integration with Windows. I cannot get it on anything called Android. I can't get it. I can barely get the email to work on Windows Phone. I I can't get it to work on an Amazon tablet, which you can get OneDrive for, or OneNote for. It's the lack of ecosystem stuff really matters, because it used to really be there was just two ecosystems. People say, "Oh, PC, you can run on anything." You know, you can run it on a Tobisha and you can run it on a Dell, but it's all a PC. It's not like you're running, all of this Windows software on a Mac.
Well, and you can run a PC on anything in that you can go buy all of the pieces of a computer and make it into a computer and then install Windows on it.
Right, but again, you still only had probably one or two computers that you were using at any given juncture, right? Even in my crazy technology house, we had 3 computers. And then I was using a computer at school, and my dad had his laptop. But we had maybe
right. In most cases, it was work and home, and that was
and your Palm Pilot
Microsoft's,
just synced with
right. And that was Microsoft's argument, was that you had it at work, so don't you want it at home?
Right, but with the multiplicity of devices, even me, I'm jumping between Windows Phone, iOS, OS X, Yosemite / the one before that, depending on which Mac I'm on, Windows 7, Windows 8. Right? I really want to be able to access my data across any of those systems without really having to think about it. Luckily, on all the computers, I can just get it all on the web with OneDrive.com and iCloud.com. But for all of the devices where the web isn't really a viable option because we failed.
Because reasons.
Because we failed as an industry. It's a kludge of how that integration works depending on whose services I pick. But I can always count on Exchange to work.
Well, and this is why without even kind of realize, so once OneDrive went to the terabyte of storage, so I stopped thinking about how much storage I needed.
Right, yeah.
I don't even have that much in there, really. Once they went to a terabyte of storage, I just started using it. I've started to explore the features of OneDrive, but just recently, but it is what I use to move files around between my machines.
I have used so little of my OneDrive, it just says 1 terabyte available.
Well, we can break that.
Well, yeah. But I mean, I've synced all my I've talked about this before. Synced all of my photos across all of my phones to OneDrive. That's
right. I've started doing that too. I'm now backing up to both Google and OneDrive.
That's what I do too. And all of my new documents are just ending up on OneDrive. For all of my jobs, everything just gets saved to OneDrive. I barely use the hard drive, the actual hard drive on the Surface Pro. It's all just OneDrive, and it's great. So on that note, we should probably get out of here. If you're looking for real tools that work across platforms, to me it's Microsoft, but it's Microsoft or Google.
It's Microsoft or Google, and that's it.
And just depending on the level of tools you need, I just think Microsoft works better. But I don't like Google Docs, and I don't like Android.
Yeah,
so between
you really
those two
don't.
things, I really don't like them. And it's not because I don't Android. I literally don't use it. But I mean, I've used Google Docs all the time, and I still don't like it. I've done whole big projects in it, and just ugh, it's not full featured enough. But anyways, if you have any feedback for us, I'm still right about Google Drive. Podcast TechLessCall.com, Facebook.com/TechLessCall, Pinterest.com/TechLessCall, or at TechLessCall on the Twitters. Good night.